They said they couldn't afford gifts this year. And I believed them. Because when your own family says they're struggling, you don't question it. You open your door wider, you give more than you should, and you smile while doing it, even when you feel the pinch yourself. Hi, my name is Lauren. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. I want to ask you something real. Have you ever trusted someone so deeply only to find out they were laughing behind your back the whole time? If yes, then you might understand why what happened next felt like a slap straight through my chest. Also, let me know where you're tuning in from. I love seeing which cities show up in the comments. I read them all. Every single one. Anyway, back to that week. It was just a few days before Christmas. Cold outside. I had cinnamon candles burning in the kitchen and instrumental jazz playing through the house. I remember feeling warm inside. Not because I had everything but because I thought we had each other. Melissa, my younger sister, had called me just 2 weeks earlier. Hey Laura, money's a bit tight this year. Derek and I might have to skip gifts, she said gently. And I, being me, just laughed and said, oh, don't worry about that. Just bring yourselves. I'll cook, I'll host, like always. She said, you're the best, and that was that. I didn't even hesitate. I didn't ask where the money was going. I just assumed they were being honest, because why wouldn't they be? We shared a joint family fund for emergencies and I was always the one topping it off anyway. I trusted them with my money the same way I trusted them with my memories. But 3 days before Christmas I got a phone alert that turned my stomach. A $3,200 charge at Lux Gold Jewelers. It didn't make sense. I wasn't buying anything like that. I stared at the screen, frozen. And in that moment, something inside me broke wide open. I didn't move right away. I just kept staring at the alert, trying to make it make sense. My first instinct wasn't even anger. It was confusion. Maybe the bank made a mistake. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe someone skimmed the card. But then I remembered, it was a joint account. Only 3 people had access to it. Me, Melissa, and Derek. So I tried to stay calm. I opened my banking app. There it was, clear as daylight. Lux Gold Jewelers. $3,200. Pending. The transaction had happened just 30 minutes earlier. I clicked for more details. The store was located downtown, not far from where Melissa worked. That's when the sick feeling really started crawling up my spine. I sat back, phone still in hand, trying to breathe. Not because I couldn't afford the hit, I could. But because it wasn't about the money. It was about what it meant. I replayed her voice in my head. Money's tight this year. And now, this? The room suddenly felt too quiet. Too clean. Like everything had been fake. The candles, the jazz, the warmth I'd felt just hours before. I walked into the kitchen, poured myself some water and stared out the window. It had started snowing lightly. The kind of snow that used to feel magical when we were kids. I thought about calling her. I thought about just texting, asking straight up. But something in me said not to. Not yet. I didn't want excuses. I didn't want another sweet little lie wrapped up in guilt. Instead, I turned into someone I didn't recognize. Someone quiet. Focused. Cold. I went back to the couch, opened my laptop and logged into the joint account from there. Over the past few weeks, there were small withdrawals here and there. Guess. Groceries. But this was different. This was deliberate. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I looked up the number for Lux Gold Jewelers. A woman answered. Good afternoon, Lux Gold. How can I help you? I cleared my throat. Hi, yes. I just got a notification for a charge made at your store using my joint account. I'm not sure who made it. Can you tell me what was purchased? She paused. Sure. Do you have the transaction time? I gave her the details. There was a rustle of paper, some typing, and then her voice came back. Yes, that was for a custom platinum engagement ring set. It was picked up in person about half an hour ago. My heart didn't drop. It didn't even race. Guest stopped. Do you happen to know who picked it up? I asked, already knowing the answer. Yes. It says a man named Derek signed for it. I didn't say anything for a few seconds. The woman on the phone must have sensed it. Ma'am, would you like me to report this as suspicious? She asked gently. I blinked back, the sting in my eyes. No, I said quietly. Not yet. Thank you for your help. She offered me a kind, almost maternal, take care, before we hung up. And then I just sat there, frozen. Not crying. Not screaming. Just stunned. Derek. My sister's fiancé. The same man who sat across from me just last week eating the lasagna I made from scratch. The one who said, you spoil us," while I smiled and thought this is what family does. I was tired of being the only one thinking that way. For the next hour I didn't move much. I replayed every conversation, every hint I might have missed. Melissa saying she'd been working late. Derek mentioning he had a surprise coming. The whispered glances they shared when I said I'd cover dinner again. It all added up now. They had used me. Not just financially but emotionally. I wasn't going to blow up. That's not who I am. And honestly, it would have given them too much power. So I opened my laptop again and logged into my bank's fraud center. There's something oddly quiet about filling out a fraud report against your own sister. The questions were clinical. Was this an authorized charge? Do you know the person who used the account? Do you suspect abuse of trust? And with each checkbox I felt like I was burying whatever love I had left for them. I marked it all. Yes, I know them. No, I did not approve the charge. Yes, I want the account frozen. The bank took it seriously. The amount was large enough to trigger an immediate freeze on the joint fund. They promised to open an investigation, and I'd be contacted by someone from their fraud team within 24 hours. After I submitted everything, I sat back. My fingers were trembling. Not from fear but from clarity. I finally saw things for what they were. And then, because I believe in transparency, even when it's hard, I typed a short message in our family group chat. Hey, just a heads up. I had to freeze the joint account due to suspicious activity. Bank's investigating. Should be sorted soon. I didn't accuse. I didn't explain. And within minutes, my phone lit up. The first reply came from Melissa. Just one word. What? Then another message a minute later. What are you talking about? What suspicious activity? I didn't respond. I wanted to see where this would go. I wanted to see if even now she would admit to anything. Tell the truth. Say sorry. Even pretend to feel bad. Instead, Derek chimed in with, "We didn't do anything wrong. Can't believe you'd act like this over a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding. That's what they were going to call it. A $3,200 misunderstanding. I didn't respond to them that night. I turned my phone off and went to bed early, though sleep didn't come easy. My brain kept replaying the whole scene. Derek picking up the ring, Melissa's fake, we're broke story, and me sitting there like the fool with open arms and an open wallet. By morning there were 6 more messages. Mostly from Melissa. Long, rambling texts that danced around the truth without ever touching it. You could have just asked. I don't know what's going on, but freezing the account? That's extreme. Why are you acting like we're criminals? I stayed quiet. Sometimes silence is the only voice they really hear. But around noon the next day the real storm arrived. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Where's the ring? It was Derek. No greeting. No pretense. Just full-blown panic in his voice. Excuse me, I said calmly, sipping my coffee. You froze the account. The bank called. They flagged the purchase. The ring, the one I bought, is being held for investigation. What did you do? I filed a fraud report, I said evenly. You said nothing. That was our engagement ring. I let the silence stretch for a beat, then replied, with my money. Without my permission. That's ridiculous, he shouted. We didn't think you'd mind, it was going to be a surprise. For your own sister. I almost laughed. Surprises don't come from someone else's bank account, Derek. He kept going, getting louder, more unhinged. And when he finally paused to catch his breath, I delivered the only line I had planned for this moment. Ask the bank investigator, I said quietly. He's got the ring now. Then I hung up. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel angry. It just felt steady. Like I had finally stopped bending to fit the shape of people who never once tried to fit mine. After I hung up on Derek, I placed my phone down gently. I didn't throw it. I didn't scream. I didn't pace the room or talk to myself like I'd seen people do in movies. I just sat still, both hands around my warm mug of coffee, and listened to the silence of my house. It was the same silence that used to comfort me. But today it felt different. It felt earned. Because for the first time in a long time I didn't shrink. I didn't compromise. I didn't cover for anyone's bad behavior just to keep the peace. I'd drawn a line. Quietly. Firmly. And now they were the ones scrambling. Later that afternoon, I received a call from the bank's fraud investigator. A man named Robert. His voice was measured and professional. He asked me to confirm a few details. Who had access to the joint account, what communication I'd had with the other parties, whether I could provide a statement. I told him everything. Calmly. Hurry. I was told by my sister and her fiancé that they were struggling financially, I said. They said they couldn't afford gifts this year. So I didn't question anything. But then I received a bank alert for a $3,200 purchase. A ring from a high-end jeweler, charged to our shared emergency fund without my consent. Robert didn't say much. Just the occasional and understood. At the end of the call he said, "Thank you, Ms. Carter. We'll take it from here." And just like that, it wasn't my burden anymore. That evening I decided to do something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. I didn't cook. I didn't clean. I didn't run errands for anyone or wrap gifts for anyone else's kids. I ordered my favorite Chinese takeout, lit a candle just for myself, and watched an old black and white movie under a soft blanket. It was peaceful. But the peace didn't last long. Around 9:30 p.m. I got a long, frantic email from Melissa. It was filled with excuses, about how Derek had surprised her with the ring, how she didn't know he used the joint account, how they were going to pay it back, and were just waiting for his work bonus to hit in January. She wrote, "You always handle things so aggressively. You could have just talked to me first. Why humiliate us like this? You've ruined everything." I read the message twice. I looked for any trace of an apology. There wasn't one. Not even a single line that said, "I'm sorry for betraying your trust." That told me everything I needed to know. They weren't upset about what they did. They were upset they got caught. The next morning I got a call from my mother. "Lauren, what is going on?" she said, her voice clipped. "Melissa just called me sobbing. Said you froze the family account and now some investigators involved? What happened?" I closed my eyes for a moment before answering. "She and Derek used my money to buy a $3,200 engagement ring," I said. "Without asking. And after telling me they couldn't afford to get anyone gifts this year." My mother went quiet. "Are you serious?" she asked. "Yes." Another pause. Then in the softest voice I'd heard from her in years she said, "Lauren, I'm sorry." I was stunned. Not because I needed her to take sides, but because for once she didn't try to minimize it. She didn't try to sweep it under the rug or say, "Well, she's your sister." She just said sorry. It was the first time I realized how long I'd been craving that. Just for someone, anyone, in the family to acknowledge that what I gave wasn't just money. It was trust. It was time. It was emotional labor. No. I was done giving to people who only knew how to take. By the weekend Melissa had stopped messaging. The silence from their end was almost louder than the shouting had been. I knew what it meant. They were embarrassed. Cornered. Maybe even angry. But I didn't care. I wasn't waiting for them to make it right anymore. I was already moving on. Melissa and Derek went quiet for days after that. No calls, no texts, no more long emails filled with deflections or emotional guilt trips. Just silence. And to be honest, it was the most peace I'd had in years. But silence can speak volumes. They weren't reaching out to make amends. They weren't reflecting. They were retreating. Probably because they realized they no longer had a hold on me. The usual script, guilt, pressure, manipulation wasn't working this time. I had stepped outside the role they'd written for me a long time ago. And once you stop playing the part, the play can't go on. 3 days after the fraud report was filed, the bank issued a formal notice. The transaction had been flagged as unauthorized and was under full investigation. The funds were locked. The ring, now considered part of an ongoing case, had been confiscated by the merchant and held as evidence. That meant Derek no longer had it. I didn't gloat. I didn't post cryptic quotes online. I just quietly forwarded the notice to Melissa's email. No note. No message. Just facts. That same evening I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the best of me. It was Derek's mother. "Lauren," she started, her voice tight with politeness, "I hope I'm not intruding." I didn't say anything. I just waited. She sighed. "Look, I'm not calling to pick a fight. I just want to say, this situation has gotten out of hand. Derek is beside himself. Melissa too. Can't we all just sit down and talk like adults? I almost smiled. Like adults. I repeated softly. You mean the way adults do when they steal from someone who's been feeding them and helping them for years? She didn't respond right away. Then she said, I'm sure it wasn't meant to hurt you. That sentence, it did something to me. Because that's exactly how people like them think. That it doesn't count as betrayal if they didn't mean it. That it's not theft if they plan to apologize eventually. That I should just sweep it under the rug for the sake of family. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I appreciate you reaching out, I said. But no, there's nothing to talk about. They made a choice. And now they're just dealing with the consequences of that choice. Like adults. She mumbled something and hung up shortly after. I never heard from her again. And that was the beginning of the quiet collapse. It started subtly. Melissa stopped posting online. Derek deactivated his social accounts. Friends who used to tag them in engagement memes stopped tagging. I even heard through a mutual friend that Derek had lost a promotion at work because of integrity questions. Apparently, the bank had called his employer as part of the investigation. I never confirmed that part. Didn't need to. I wasn't keeping score. But karma. He was working overtime. The week before New Year's, my parents called again, this time together on speakerphone. My dad, who rarely inserted himself into family drama, finally asked, Do you think you'll ever speak to your sister again? I took a long breath. I don't know, I said honestly. Not if she keeps pretending nothing happened. My mother didn't push this time. Maybe she saw it in my tone, the finality of it. The peace I had made with the idea that some bonds are only meaningful if both people are holding the rope. And Melissa? She let go the moment she thought I'd never pull back. So no, I wasn't angry anymore. Just done. That New Year's Eve, I sat on my patio wrapped in a thick blanket, watching the sky flicker with distant fireworks. No champagne. No crowd. Just a journal on my lap and a single line written in black ink. 2025, Year of Boundaries. And just as I finished writing that, my phone buzzed with one last message. It was from Melissa. I'm sorry you felt hurt. But I hope one day you'll realize we didn't mean to betray you. Things just got complicated. We're still family. I stared at the screen. Still family. No apology. No ownership. Just more deflection. I typed back one sentence. You don't steal from family. Then I turned off my phone and went to bed before midnight. The new year arrived without fanfare. No calls, no countdowns, no clinking glasses. And yet, it was the most peaceful New Year's I'd had in my adult life. There was something powerful in the stillness. No one was demanding anything from me. No one was pretending to love me while secretly emptying my pockets. No one was standing in my kitchen dropping passive-aggressive comments disguised as jokes. I was alone, and it finally felt like peace, not punishment. The first morning of the new year, I went on a walk. The air was cold but fresh, and every breath I took felt like I was reclaiming pieces of myself. I stopped at a little cafe and got my favorite pastry and coffee, and for once I didn't think about picking up anything extra, just in case someone dropped by. No one was coming. And that was okay. I started doing small things differently after that. I changed the locks on my house, not out of fear but as a symbol. A new door. A new boundary. I took my name off the joint emergency fund and closed the account entirely. I opened a new one just for me with a strong password and no shared access. I cleaned out my phone too, archived old messages, deleted threads that only existed to keep the illusion of closeness. I even removed myself from the family group chat. Quietly. No announcement. Just a quiet exit from a space where I had been talked over for years. And then I did something that surprised even me. I started journaling. Not just about what had happened, but about who I was before all of this. Who I had become while constantly giving. How many versions of myself I had buried under other people's comfort. I wrote, I used to think being the strong one meant carrying everyone. But now I know it also means knowing when to put them down. Days turned into weeks. My phone stayed quiet. I knew Melissa and Derek were still out there, probably navigating the awkward aftermath of their failed engagement, but I didn't check. I didn't stalk their pages. I didn't ask mutual friends for updates. I let the silence speak for itself. Then something unexpected happened. I got an email from a nonprofit organization I had volunteered with years ago. They were organizing a financial literacy event for young women and needed someone to speak about budgeting, boundaries, and protecting your assets, especially in emotionally manipulative family situations. At first, I almost declined. The idea of revisiting the wound publicly felt too raw. But then I remembered how helpless I had felt that day on my couch, staring at a $3,200 charge, trying to understand how my own sister could do that to me. I thought if someone had told me then that I wasn't alone, maybe I would have healed sooner. So I said yes. I stood in front of 30 young women that Saturday morning, hands a little shaky but voice clear. I told them about trust and how even family can cross lines when we don't protect ourselves. I told them about the ring, the lie, the fraud report, and the strength it took to say no more. And afterward, a young woman came up to me with tears in her eyes and said, "Thank you for saying it out loud." I thought it was just me. That moment was worth every ounce of pain. By spring, I had started consulting part-time, helping women set up their own emergency funds, reviewing contracts, and even coaching a few through financial breakups. It wasn't a job. It was something more sacred. A way to turn betrayal into purpose. One afternoon while updating my records, I got a notification on my phone. A new email from the bank. The fraud case had officially closed. The funds were returned to my account. No further action would be taken against Derek, they said, but the ring was never returned to him. The merchant had quietly sold it again, legally, after the hold expired. Derek had tried to recover it, but the bank blocked the attempt. Reading that, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't cheer. I didn't forward it to Melissa. I just smiled. Because the universe had already handled it. They tried to steal something shiny. But I got something far more valuable. My self-respect. My clarity. My space. It's funny how the heart heals. Not all at once and not in some grand moment of closure, but slowly. Quietly. In bits and pieces. A full night's sleep without guilt. A coffee that actually tastes like peace. A walk that doesn't feel heavy. That's how I knew I was finally healing. I hadn't spoken to Melissa or Derek in over 3 months. And truthfully, I didn't miss them. Not because I didn't love them once, I did. But because I finally understood that love without respect is just control dressed up in nice words. One afternoon in early summer, I was organizing some old boxes in the attic when I came across a photo album. Inside were pictures from birthdays, cookouts, holidays when I still believed we were all in it together. There was one photo of me and Melissa. Arms wrapped around each other, both of us laughing in front of a Christmas tree. I stared at it for a long time. Not with anger. Not with sadness. But with a kind of tired gratitude. Because sometimes the people who hurt us the most are the ones who taught us the most. They teach us how to say no. How to stand up. How to protect ourselves. And eventually, how to let go. I didn't throw the album away. I kept it. Because I'm not trying to erase the past. I'm just choosing to stop living in it. A few weeks later, I got one last message from Melissa. I almost didn't read it, but curiosity won. I know you probably hate me. I know what we did was wrong. Derek and I aren't together anymore. He blamed me. I blamed him. But really we were both selfish. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say, thank you. For being stronger than I ever was. I see that now. There was no ask. No guilt. Just that. And maybe she meant it. Maybe she didn't. But for the first time it didn't matter. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Some chapters don't need a dialogue. They just need an ending. And this was mine. Now, I know some of you might be watching this thinking, I could never cut off family, or, but what if they change? And to that I say maybe they will. People can change. But you don't have to burn yourself to keep them warm while you wait. You can love someone, and still walk away. You can forgive, and still protect your peace. You can grieve the relationship you hoped for, and still build something beautiful without it. If there's one thing I hope this story reminds you, it's this. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors. And you decide who gets a key. So tell me, have you ever had to draw that line with someone close? A sibling? A parent? A spouse? What was your breaking point, and what did you learn from it? Drop your city and your story in the comments. I read every single one. And if this hit home for you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because there's a lot of us out here, quiet givers, exhausted forgivers, who are finally learning that peace is not selfish. It's sacred. And the moment you stop waiting for someone to value you, is the moment you start valuing yourself. I'm Lauren. And this was the year I stopped rescuing people who wouldn't even meet me halfway. The year I closed one door and opened 100 windows. The year I stopped being the responsible one and became the free one. The year I let the silence speak and finally heard myself again.